What seems like a small oversight will soon lead to a life-threatening emergency.
Mayday, mayday, mayday.
As the aircraft speeds down the runway, several passengers near the wings notice something strange outside their windows, something that doesn't seem quite right. What have they seen? And how will the crew react once they realize what is happening?
You know how some days just feel cursed? For the passengers of British Airways Flight 762 back in 2013, that day started off like any other. Heathrow Airport, busy morning, passengers boarding, crew smiling, bags shoved into overhead bins. Nobody thought twice. It was just another London to Oslo trip, but only a few minutes after takeoff, chaos. The engines weren't just misbehaving, they were literally on fire. Imagine being strapped into your seat, tray table up, phone on airplane mode, and suddenly hearing bangs outside the window. You look over, and there it is. Smoke, flames, not turbulence, not a bird strike. No, actual fire spitting out of the engine. That kind of moment freezes you. Some passengers screamed, others just stared in disbelief. Some didn't even move, like their brains couldn't process what was happening. And here's the crazy part. It all started because of something so small, you'll roll your eyes. See, those engines had just been through maintenance. Engineers had been working on the fan cowl doors. You can think of them like protective covers on the outside of the engine. The problem? They didn't secure them properly.
Speedbird, Mayday, Speedbird 2276, request fire services.
Speedbird 2276, heavy fire services are on the way.
Speedbird 2276 heavy, we are evacuating on the runway. We have a fire, I repeat, we are evacuating.
Now, on the ground, that doesn't look like much. But once the plane took off, the high air pressure ripped those doors right open. Instead of flying harmlessly away, they slammed back into the engines themselves, and that caused a chain reaction. Fuel leaks, sparks, fire. Basically, a disaster recipe. And if you're wondering why no one spotted it before takeoff, someone did. A ground crew member reportedly noticed the panels loose. But in that mad rush of airport operations, it slipped past the final checks. One small human error spiraling into full-blown chaos.
She approached them, and they pointed out visible damage to the right engine. Standing in the aisle, her view was limited, and she didn't notice the most critical detail.
By the time the Airbus A319 was in the sky, smoke was trailing behind it. People on the ground could literally look up and see black streaks pouring from the plane. Imagine walking your dog near Heathrow and suddenly spotting a jet with its engines burning over London. Not exactly a normal morning stroll. And this was 2013, so of course people whipped out their phones. Within minutes, videos of the plane spewing smoke were up on Twitter. Captions like, "Plane on fire over London." Social media was already in meltdown before the passengers even landed. Inside the cockpit though, calm.
A sudden loud bang came from the right engine, followed by a sharp drop in its parameters. Realizing the gravity of the situation,
that's what gets me about pilots. They're trained for nightmares like this. Captain Steve Anderson and his first officer didn't panic. They went straight into emergency mode, declared a mayday, and turned the plane back toward Heathrow. Now picture that for a second. You've got one of the busiest cities in the world underneath you. Thousands of people on the ground watching in horror. 2 crippled engines, one literally burning. And you have to get that plane down without killing anyone. In the cabin, passengers could smell smoke. Some were coughing. The flight attendants were walking up and down, trying to calm people. But really, how do you calm someone when flames are visible out the window? And yet, strangely, no chaos. No wild stampede, just that terrifying quiet when everyone realizes they might not make it. But then came the miracle. The pilots brought the plane back down in under 15 minutes. Think about that. Less time than it takes to drink an overpriced airport latte. They took off, had a full-blown fire emergency, and landed again in less than a quarter of an hour. The landing itself, rough. The engines were still sputtering and coughing. One was belching smoke, but the wheels hit the runway, and seconds later, the call came. Evacuate! Evacuate! Now, here's something a lot of people forget. When you evacuate, you don't take your stuff. No laptops, no handbags, no duty-free shopping bags, just your life. You grab nothing, jump on the inflatable slide, and get out. And that's exactly what happened. Passengers sliding down barefoot, some crying, some holding hands, some filming shaky videos even while evacuating. Because of course, it's the age of the smartphone. The runway filled with people running away from the aircraft while fire crews swarmed in. Within seconds, firefighters were blasting the engines with foam. The flames didn't stand a chance.
Despite the challenging circumstances, the aircraft stopped safely. The captain positioned the plane so that the wind would carry the flames away from the fuselage, minimizing the risk.
And here's the jaw-dropping part. Not one single person died. Hundreds of passengers, both engines damaged, fire mid-air, emergency landing, and every single person walked away alive. Sure, some were bruised, some shaken for life, but alive. The investigation later was brutal. The conclusion? 100% preventable. The fan cowl doors had been left unlatched after maintenance. That's it. Just a tiny oversight with massive consequences. British Airways took a hit to its reputation. Aviation authorities tightened rules. Airlines everywhere doubled down on pre-flight inspections. And the engineers involved, let's just say their careers didn't exactly shine after that. Because in aviation, every small mistake multiplies at 35,000 feet. But what sticks with you about BA762 isn't just the fire or the viral videos. It's the reminder of how fast things can spiral in the sky, and how training can mean the difference between life and death. Pilots practice engine out landings in simulators over and over. And honestly, most of us roll our eyes at the idea of just training. But that training? That's why this wasn't a disaster headline. That's why hundreds of families got hugs that night instead of condolences. And maybe the next time you're sitting on a plane, listening to that safety briefing you usually ignore, think of Flight 762. Those slides, those exits, those calm crew voices, they're not just airline theater, they save lives. So yeah, flying is still insanely safe, but BA762 is the story of how one tiny error on the ground nearly turned into a disaster in the air, and how quick thinking and solid training turned what could have been tragedy into survival. Now, here's the question. If you'd been on that flight, what would you have done? Freeze, cry, film the flames out your window, or just sit there gripping your seat, praying for wheels on the runway? Drop it in the comments, because honestly, even now, I don't know what I would have done.